Sabah teams are basically less prepared than Sarawak. You got to look at it. It is killing a lot of local businesses. We need a strong and fearless state government. The declassification of previously secret documents. Then the telegram showed that Malaya was after our oil and gas. Zero. I said, Sabah and Sarawak equal status, so what? Is it equal to Malaya? Is it? That's why I call them.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Kopitiam Council, and this time around we have something a bit exciting because we always invite economists, academics, young people also, but this time, for the first time, we're inviting a politician, Hafiz. Not just any politician. We have here in the studio Datuk Seri Panglima Yong Teck. He is a veteran Malaysian politician and lawyer and a key figure in the political landscape of Sabah. He is most widely known for serving as the 10th Chief Minister of Sabah, holding the state's highest office from 1996 to 1998. He is the founder and current president of the Sabah Progressive Party, SAPP, which recently exited the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah Coalition, GRS, to contest in the upcoming state elections under its own party banner. In addition to his political role, Datuk Yong holds a significant position in Sabah's economic development as the chairman of POIC Sabah Sendirian Berhad, the state-owned company developing the POIC Industrial Park in Lahadatu. He also serves, I guess incumbent now, as nominated member of the Sabah State Legislative Assembly. This one we asked AI, Dato. Is that accurate?
More or less.
More or less. All right. Okay. So,
All right, Dato, we want to start because most of our audience probably, youth that, the new 662 voters in the upcoming election. So they may not know about your background, early participation in politics. You want to tell to them like how you started in politics and the rest is history for you?
Well, what triggered me to join party politics and elections was in 1984. Going back a bit, I have always been active even as a student unionist in the overseas. And after I came back, me and my circle of friends have always been very keen on public issues. What triggered me to eventually decide to join competitive politics and elections was when Labuan became a federal territory by the then government in 1984. And I thought only the electoral process can correct any major developments such as the federalization of Labuan. That was a trigger against a backdrop of activism for many years. Yeah, that's how I started. And of course, I started in 1984 when we joined the movement at the time. In 1985 elections, through party PBS at the time, I was age 26, young budding lawyer with a lot of what we call the the graduates at the time. At the time, there were about 2,000 young graduates in Sabah. And of course, a lot of other friends of my age group were participating in the political change of 1985. Now, that's 40 years ago.
Wow.
That's almost 2 generations.
And still, you're still going strong.
Well, a lot of the issues have already passed, but a lot of new issues. New technology brings about new ideas, new challenges. Of course, I find some parts of the Sabah development have not changed, such as the slow pace of development, our general political culture of leaving it until elections, then to make decisions, rather than politics being a continuous process of change, not just in the changes of government and leaders, but a continuous process of change for progress, for improvement in society. That is still there. It might remain like that for many, many years to come. I don't know. But I see that.
hopefully not another 40 years. Hopefully it won't be another 40 years until...
I don't know. But now technology has moved very fast. With technology come new ideas, new technologies.
Dato, okay, because your Korean politics started when you were 26, right? And a lot of people know you as a seasoned and veteran politician, but did you ever expect at 26 years old 11 years later, you become a chief minister at 37. What was that like? Being a very
Becoming
young
chief minister was not in my political thinking at the time. Yeah, it's circumstances that came along, and then possibility of a chief ministership came along, and we were there at that time. Yeah, when we joined, I mean, by the way, it's just a background. When I first joined politics in 1985, neither me nor all my friends believed that we can form the government.
In the hindsight, looking back at the 2-year rotational system, would you stand by that as
It
of
served its
2025?
purpose. It served its purpose. Going back to why the rotation of among the three main ethnic groups in Sabah was because to avoid the domination of political power by one group against the others. So this idea of a rotation was to share power in this one way. It was unprecedented. It was something that happened at that period of time in Sabah's political development. Yeah. In other words, because what I call the pendulum swing, whereby one major ethnic group had political power, and then subsequent election, another major group had political power. Each time the pendulum swung, many people got knocked down along the way. So the rotation is not my idea. The rotation is not my idea. It came along, and I was there, and we go by it, and I make the best of the system. It was good that we had British inherited British form of government, whereby the civil service is maintained, the system of government is maintained. You can have change of chief minister, cabinet, but the basic administration remains. So that allows for some stability.
What was it like within those 2 years as chief minister? Rarely do we ever get to talk to people who held that office, right, the highest office in Sabah. What was it like, and what were
It was very hectic. It was very hectic on the personal basis, on the political basis, and government. It was a very competitive political environment. It was a huge learning process. But I was lucky that I had a very good team in terms of the ministers in the cabinet, in terms of the civil service at the time, and in terms of even the political partners. At that time, it was the Barisan Nasional government. Had a very good team. We meet all the time. We understand what each other's constraints and strengths and weaknesses are. And it was a very good team. But personally, it was very hectic. I tell you, when it was time to let go, exactly on the last day of the 2-year term, which was 27th of May, 1998, it was a big relief. And I tell you, something I've not spoken openly before, but since I'm here, there were only two chief ministers of Chinese ethnic background. There's me and Dr. Kosukun of Penang. Two.
Yeah.
And before I stepped down, it was good to have him here in Sabah. And those days, there's no WhatsApp, those days. Even email and SMS. I was on the line with Dr. Kosukun for 30 minutes just to fix a date for him to be here. Either I'm not free or he was not free. So finally, he made the short trip here. Just to tell you how hectic it was. To get Chief Minister of Penang to come to Sabah for a short visit before I step down. We meet all the time in Kuala Lumpur and Chief Ministers Conference and other events. But for him here to be here, it took us 30 minutes on the phone just to get a mutually suitable date.
Wow.
That's how hectic it was.
How about the ideations of forming SAPP then?
At the time, we realized that Sabah was outside the mainstream of national development. Some people misunderstood what I meant, that we were left out of the mainstream of national development. So SAPP was formed after we left PBS to provide that as a pathway towards national mainstream of development. That not to be misunderstood as non-local parties in the mainstream of Sabah. We say Sabah in the mainstream of development. Sabah in the national mainstream. not the national parties in Sabah mainstream, which we are seeing now. There's this big discourse on the subject of whether we want non-local parties or Party Malaya or in Sabah mainstream. So it should be Sabah in the national mainstream. That was what we tried to do in 1994. It worked in certain ways, but as you know, after 30 years, politics keep changing. The rise of local parties, the rise of national parties come and go. The change whereby national party begin to lose its clout was in 2008 when Barisan Nasional lost its first time in its history lost its total majority, and eventually in 2013 when the Barisan Nasional lost its government in Malaysia. So I call that 2008 as a window of opportunity. 2018 when there's a new government in Malaysia as a new era, uncharted waters, unprecedented in Malaysia. So today what we're seeing in Sabah and Sarawak and West Malaysia is one of the ongoing political development of the new era after the fall of the Barisan Nasional UMNO government in 2018. It is a developing process. So which way will it go? Which way will it go? It's now in Sabah this month and next month very much in the hands of Sabahans.
And it's almost been 10 years since that fall of Barisan Nasional, Datuk.
Yes.
And SAPP has gone through quite a lot. You yourself, you became a appointed assemblyman, and you were with GRS at one point, and then just recently you left the coalition, right? But I know you said that is because the PH is in the picture here, right? But can you explain exactly what is it about PH that doesn't make your opinion on GRS not as palatable as before?
Well, PH as a start is a wrong party. Starting with DAP, for instance, I'm not trying to be too political. I know who they are. I know what they talk about in public and in private. And I know for a fact that what they promise, all the fantastic things they promise, are not only unrealistic, many of them are scammers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things they say and promise to do are scams. Cheating and lying to people in order to get votes. That is not the political culture that we want to see in Malaysia, more so in Sabah. That's as a start. But be that as it may, this is post-2018. And then post-2020 with a coalition of Sabah and National Party, following from the Barisan Nasional, a brief era of Warisan Pakatan, and then now the GRS as a coalition. It's a Sabah coalition of mixture of local and Malaya parties. Okay, let go back a bit. From the Barisan Nasional, which is a national-led coalition with Sabah parties, to Warisan Pakatan, which is a local party with national party, but it's Pakatan one block and Warisan one party. But Warisan was not a member of Pakatan. There you go to the GRS, which by a mixture of both national parties and local parties, former enemies, new friends in the GRS. Then came along the post-Ismail Sabri, the 2020 parliamentary election, whereby you got Pakatan, federal government, opposition in Sabah. Then the Kinabalu move. Okay? The Kinabalu move. So many changes at the time whereby Barisan Nasional was replaced by Pakatan. You see? But GRS maintained, except Bersatu became Gagasan. Okay? And Gagasan took in a lot of members of the assembly from Warisan and some from UMNO. So looking at all that, then we're looking at Sarawak. We're looking at Sarawak. 100% Sarawak local party government. Mm-hmm. So we have a successful model. Not before 2022 Sarawak. Not before 2022 Sarawak, whereby we have a Sarawak multi-party, local party government, which is not part of the national Pakatan. Sarawak has always been a local party government, but it was part of the Barisan Nasional. But Sarawak the GPS now, Gabungan Party Sarawak, is not part of Pakatan. So that success in Sarawak encourage local parties in Sabah to look at that as a model. Now, who is there to say that a successful state government must have the Prime Minister party in the government? Johor doesn't have Pakatan members in the Johor government. I put aside the past government of Kedah, Kelantan, Terengganu. Look at Johor. Johor doesn't have a Prime Minister party in the government. They're doing very well. Okay. Sarawak doesn't have, at all levels of the government, any member of Pakatan. So Sabah should learn from that, which is very much in the spirit of MA63. You know, you go back to the promises made in 1962, 63, before the formation of Malaysia, the Sabah will be an autonomous state. So all that brings about a new realization that Sabah government should consist of only Sabah local parties, a la Sarawak. So if it can happen in Sabah.
Before we touch on MA63, Datuk, because you said that working with national parties, Sarawak doesn't do that. Would you say would it have been better, let's say, GRS and Warisan form a coalition? Because considering how the politics now, it doesn't seem any party is able to win a simple majority. There's going to have to be a coalition, right? Wouldn't it have been better GRS go to Warisan? Work together with them?
This is the first time somebody put it to me on record. In fact, when Kinabalu move happened, I was surprised that Bom Mokhtar thought he had the numbers. Because in my meetings at GRS, all the Pakatan YBs were already with us, GRS. Some of the UMNO YBs were with us, even a few Warisan. So where did Bong get the idea that he had the numbers? I realized at one of those meetings among the YBs, the some Pakatan YBs signed 2 statutory declarations. One to Hajiji, one to Bong. So it gave Bong the false idea that he had the numbers. Now, to be honest, as the Kinabalu move was unfolding, I tried to reach out to Warisan. I've not said it. This is the first time I said it in public. I tried to reach out to Warisan. I have no contact with SAPP. I tried to reach out to Warisan people close to SAPP. At the same time, I talked to one of the Chief Minister's people, Hajiji. Why not with Warisan? Why not GRS with Warisan? And one of the speeches by SAPP later on, he said, Hajiji came to see him. You see, and he told Hajiji, you are still a member of Bersatu. He's still very sour about being toppled by Hajiji. He said, why are you still in Bersatu? He said, but this thing could have been worked out. Because the moment GRS formed, post Ismail Sabri, this is after October 2022, it's only a matter of time that the Bersatu group of YBs will be leaving and forming their own group. You see? Fast forward a bit, when Hajiji left Bersatu with his group of YBs to form Gagasan, we were very happy. At last, you have a fully Sabah local party government, GRS. You see? But before that happened, along the way concurrently, I did try to reach out to SAPP people to get him to work with Hajiji on the Sabah local party government. I could not get him to in time. And by the time I reached Srigaya, there was one afternoon, I think the night that Anwar came midnight from Jakarta, he came in midnight with Jahid. Sorry, I don't use official title.
Sorry.
Anwar flew in at night with Jahid. Jahid came earlier. Anwar flew in and went to Srigaya. That afternoon, we had a gathering of YBs. There I saw the DAP and PKR and APCO and YBs were there. I heard later on, this is with hindsight, that Hajiji, having been rebuffed by SAPP had its plan B, which was to get Pakatan to support him in the government. Now, that's my perspective. I'm sure if you talk to the others, they will have their perspective. To answer your question, first time I say openly in public is, yes, I did try to reach out to SAPP to work with Hajiji, but I was not successful.
All right, you did when you were still in GRS.
Oh
Now,
yeah, this was January 2023.
okay, now that you are out of GRS, are you still gonna call Shafi?
I have already, in many ways, say openly that local parties must work together to win this election. And for 5 consecutive times, Shafi have repeated his stand that Warisan will contest 73 seats. In other words, he's crossing the door to all other parties. You see, now the background chatter is that he is talking to UMNO. Therefore, he doesn't need the rest. So I have, of course, by the way, in the last 1 week or so, reached out to Warisan people. Honestly, some Warisan people are reaching out to me and my people to work together. The stumbling block is the president of Warisan, Datuk Seri Panglima Shafi Abda. He does not want to work with anybody else. It's on the record that he says he wants Warisan to contest 73 seats. Still a long way to nomination.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, today still was more than 3 weeks to nomination. I hope Sapi will see the reality that he keeps saying he can form his own government. I say no. I issue a short statement to say it's not true that Berjaya won without outside help. Berjaya in 1976 won the state government with very open and public support from the federal government to top up USNO at the time. Then you talk about PBS, also a single party government. But PBS beat Berjaya in 1985 in an electoral pact with USNO. You say, don't forget these facts. People like me in politics for 40 years, I remember. You see, you cannot cheat, you cannot lie, you cannot try to tell half truth. The truth is, PBS was the government for 9 years, but it beat Berjaya, the Barisan Nasional single party, Barisan 85, in an electoral pact with USNO. It did not do it on its own. In 1976, Berjaya won with the support of the federal government. So Warisan which thinks Sapi, not all Warisan people, a lot of Warisan people agree with my point of view that there must be a
Coalition.
electoral cooperation among local parties, including Party KDM. For a party to think that they can contest 73 seats on their own and win enough seats, a simple majority from the government, is not realistic.
All right, Dato, you mentioned about PBS and USNO back then. But maybe supporters of Warisan would say that, okay, USNO bring Muslim majority to the coalition and PBS would be the KDMR and non-Muslims Bumi Putra. For today, if Warisan says, what would SAPP bring if they want to get together?
USNO was also a multiracial party, although it was Muslim
Mainly
dominant.
Muslim.
PBS was also a multiracial party, although it's non-Muslim dominant. Since then, a lot have changed. All local parties are multiracial parties. Even UPCO have changed its name to be a multiracial party. So I don't think you have a dichotomy of Muslim Malay bloc and a non-Muslim non-Malay bloc. Both sides are multiracial now. All sides are multiracial now. SAPP is multiracial. We will always be multiracial. PBS is multiracial. Now talk about the opposition bloc, meaning outside GRS Madani lah. Outside Madani include UMNO. Okay, outside the GRS PS bloc. You got STAR is multiracial. SAPP multiracial. Warisan is very multiracial. PKDM, although it started as Kadasan Dusun Murut, actually now Kesejahteraan something lah. It's also multiracial. So the other smaller ones, but these are the key active opposition party. So they're all multiracial. So in a way, it's good for Sabah's political development. You take racial and religious polarization out of the political equation. It's very good for Sabah. It's very Sabahan.
Yeah. As long as you're Sabah, it's Sabahan, you are belong to the local party.
Right.
Okay. Well, Datuk, Kopitiam Council isn't just about local politics, right? We talk about international ones as well. And this question is tying back because this is written by a scholar. Her name is Rachel Lee. She wrote Rachel Lee. She wrote an article, CCP Subnational Influence in Malaysia, Co-opting Sabah's Chinese elite, right? So one of it, there was a chapter dedicated to you, Datuk. So the question is, the sources that you have an affiliation with CCP influence platforms, including through Hakka organizations and events like the promoting the Belt and Road initiatives. Given that Belt and Road is sometimes linked to strategic influence, how do you manage these links with CCP agenda at the same time Sabah's development?
Other than one congratulatory message on some anniversary in China, we have absolutely no connection with any political parties outside Malaysia.
But I mean, engagement with them in terms of
Any political party outside Malaysia, we don't have.
Okay.
All right.
Whether it's CCP, whether it's any other political party outside Malaysia, we don't have. Now, that article I just glanced through, there are a lot of inaccuracies, but the hypothesis that the CCP is very much a Western narrative, you see, a Western narrative that that this China trying to reach out to many people outside the country. That's a Western narrative. But if you talk about SAPP and any political outside Malaysia, we don't have.
All right. Since we are in the talk of Beijing here, you're also very vocal with the trespassing in the our sea, Malaysia Sea, particularly in Sabah area. How do you would suggest to for future government of Malaysia or Sabah
You see,
to deal with this?
the BRI has not benefited any part of East ASEAN.
Okay.
Belt Road Initiative. If you look at the Belt Road Initiative, it's a development initiative. Some call it soft power. So what? ADB, based Asian Development Bank, based in Manila, World Bank, IMF. These are all international financial institutions supposedly to help poorer countries develop on favorable
Interest.
financing terms. SAPMA, the SAPMA fish market in KK is funded by ADB, Asian Development Bank, during the Berjaya era, implemented during the PBS era. I was there in the finance ministry at that time. We welcome this kind of development, which are very good. Now, the Belt Road Initiative Fund, none of it has come to East ASEAN, which is what? Sabah, Sarawak, Brunei, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Southern Philippines. And I made this complaint in one seminar. What is East ASEAN? East ASEAN was formed by, at that time, President Ramos, because of the problem in the Southern Philippines. Prime Minister Mahathir, because Sabah needed more development. And the eastern Indonesian provinces, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Jakarta. That time was President Suharto. That's how East ASEAN started. In order to develop these outlying provinces, you know what happened now? That's one of my complaints to association, Chamber of Commerce, government officers. One seminar, there was a representative from the China consulate. It's a counselor from the China consulate. I said, look, Belt Road Initiative cannot move anywhere in ASEAN unless it gets the approval of the central government. Now, none of the development Belt Road Initiative funds have come to East ASEAN because in the first place, they have to go through the national government. They have to go through the national capital. And we know what happens when goodies come to Malaysia through the federal government, it gets hijacked to other areas. Indonesia have the same problem. I went to Kalimantan, I went to Mindanao, I met various officers. They're having problem with the central government. So one of the weaknesses of the Belt Road Initiative, One Belt, One Road development projects, it is all centered at the national government. And that's one of the weaknesses with Beijing's approach. They only deal G to G. They cannot deal with the state government. And therefore, my complaint now to you and to anybody watching is, it defeats the purpose of having East ASEAN. East ASEAN is so that the less developed provinces, far from the national capital, can develop. But if the funds have to go through the national government in the first place, we, precisely for the weaknesses, that we still continue to be deprived of this kind of Belt Road initiative. You name me one project in Sabah that is funded under Belt Road initiative. Zero. Southern Philippines? Zero. Kalimantan? Zero.
Okay.
So this Belt Road initiative, I have to say it is a good thing. For the simple reason that it is an alternative source of development funds. We still have ADB, we still have World Bank, and China have their CDB, China Development Bank. For ASEAN, they have an office in Jakarta. Jakarta. These are alternative sources of development funds. We are not so stupid to call the debt trap. What the Western media call the debt trap. That you fall into a trap because you take loans. We will look at every financing initiative. We will look at every loans on its merits.
Because the concern is that, we have a lot of investment coming in from China. We have in KKIP a lot of Chinese-based companies, a lot of Chinese-led development here in Sabah. So, the common criticism is that are we selling ourselves out to China? But the way you describe it, that is, we have no choice but to work with China for development.
China's biggest asset to us is not their investment, it's their market. Sabah is a very small economy. I tell all my friends, you don't have to look at the China market, you just look at 2 or 3 provinces. Guangdong province has a GDP bigger than France. You can imagine. Now our seafood selling to West Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, not enough. Our coffee powder, not enough. Just selling in Malaysia. And they have the bird nest and durians and so on coming up. In other words, we are a very small economy. To penetrate the China market, one of the ways is to have the China investors here. Then they can sell back to the China market. But not necessarily all. You see? Now to penetrate the China market, even the Philippine market, Singapore market, first is our product quality and packaging. That leads to blending. You see? So you talk about the China investment here, I think they have been exaggerated. They've been exaggerated. There are only a few successful ones. I heard that none of the China contractors is making money. The contractors, making money because when they came here, they thought things move as efficiently as in China. They have problem with all kinds of infrastructure problem, starting from the ports, from the lack of water electricity, from the lack of labor, and of course, because the scale is small, unit cost is higher, unlike in China. So high rises, they are very good at building high rises. You see, China. So you see all these high rises from China company. I would be paying more attention to make sure that local businesses and local contractors are not displaced by a more competitive China contractor and West Malaysian contractors. What are the big thing that we lack? Capital. Capital means heavy machinery that costs a lot of money to acquire. You see, and the management know-how. These are the 2 things that we lack in Sabah. China coming up because they are very cost competitive, but not only China, even West Malaysia companies are coming here, to do big projects. I would think that the state government after November 29 should pay more attention to this, including, by the way, I may digress a bit, this chain stores, setting up everywhere. One thing is the pharmacies. I asked this question in the day one. It's not so much a problem now in Sabah, but it will become where many new pharmacies will be set up, big pharmacies. What range of products? In some products, they are much cheaper. In just a couple of years, they will knock out all the local pharmacies. Do we want that? That had to be looked at. Then the big supermarkets, knocking out all the small supermarkets and knocking out all the small hardware shops. Do we want that? That is one area what I call the not to be overprotective of the Sabah business community, but you have to allow them time to grow and to become more competitive.
So after 29 November, Datuk, what would you say to the new government, whoever party that's going to form the government, to prioritize on maybe certain industries or whatnot? What would you say to that government, the priorities should set on?
Well, first things first is to engage with the trade association, the various chamber of commerce. It's not just Chinese. You got the Kadazan Dusun, you got the Buiputra, you got the Malayu, you got the Chinese. Engage with them. Engage with the SME association, small and medium scale entrepreneur association. Engage with the palm oil planters, all this. Within 1 month to identify specific area that we should restrict the uncontrolled influx of big businesses. In some countries, they call it dumping. Dumping. Because they are huge, the cost is lower.
Yeah.
You see? So if within 1 month and by January, February, you're going to start putting conditions on the trade licenses.
But what's the alternative, Datuk? The realistic alternative? Because in the end, in the free market, people still gonna go for the cheapest one. If it's the same market, same item, go for the cheapest one. If local businesses have to pay a lot on outsourcing and producing, they will never win the battle.
Yes, I don't mean a Grai versus a Tesco supermarket. I mean one of our local brand supermarket versus a national supermarket. The prices are not that much different. But if they were to dump, in other words, cheap products into Sabah, top 5 products, very cheap in this supermarket, people will go there for that 5 products. You see? Although the other products have the equal prices with the other supermarket. You see? I'm not talking about stopping Starbucks from coming in order to protect the kedai kopi. There's 2 different categories. People going to Starbucks is a different category. People going to kopitiam is a different category. You see? I'm talking about supermarket, pharmacies, hardware shops. You see? That one is, you got to look at it. It is killing a lot of local businesses. And I have insisted that businesses that can be done by Sabahan, at least competitive to West Malaysian company, should be reserved to Sabah. Do you know that our City Hall car parking app is by a West Malaysian company?
Yes.
There are many apps that can do it. I said this to Datuk Masidi. I mentioned this to Datuk CM Hajiji. I said, why? We have a Sabah Credit Corporation that has its own app. DBA car parking app, all your parking app, you're going to pay a fee to a company in West Malaysia, including the Fosun multi-story car park.
The new one.
The newest one. The app is run by a West Malaysian company. Of course, there are Sabah companies who can do this. Now, that's clear cut. I would quickly look at that, to see how we can cut off the service by this KO company that is doing our app for car parking, bring it back to Sabah.
Okay.
Start with Sabah Credit. Sabah Credit can do it.
Speaking of solutions, that because you point out very realistic and things like little steps that we can do, right? So I want to shift that towards a larger issue, which is the recent court case SLS has won against the federal government, the 40% revenue, right? Of course, now maybe the federal government will appeal, maybe they won't. But now the question is, how do we ensure that 40% comes back? What kind of mechanism should we look at? Do we collect, let's say, revenue here first and keep it there, then send the rest to federal, or do we have to give it to federal, then wait for them to come back here? What is your recommendation for a mechanism?
Before that is discussed, we need a strong and fearless state government. people who are not compromised by corruption charges, compromised by other vulnerable cases that make themselves weak. I have said this twice, once in my party congress speech, another one in my statement recently. President John Kennedy, do not fear to negotiate, but do not negotiate out of fear. If you have leaders, before I answer your question, if you have leaders who are fearful of being charged or investigated for corruption or other potentially criminal cases, then they negotiate out of fear. So we need leaders, for instance, Dr. Jeffrey, who is fearless, to bring up the case to the federal government. Because why? Federal will never concede the surrender of more financial resources to the state. So ideally, taxes should be collected in Sabah. We calculate what's the net value after deducting the cost. Then you have your 60%. We have our 40%. You see, that's the easier part. The more difficult part is many big companies doing business in Sabah but paying taxes in KL. All the banks, maybe minus Sabah Development Bank, all the banks, all the telcos, telephone companies, Astro,
MNC, yeah, all MNC. All MNC. Multinational.
MNCs, I think mostly KL. I don't know whether it's all of them. They're registered in KL. So they pay taxes in KL. Felda, Genting Highlands, Genting Plantation, all this, paying taxes in KL. Those are big figures. So I would think that because they consolidate account at the headquarters, after the profit, then they pay the federal tax. In our case, I think the ideally would be they will have to consolidate the Sabah part of the business here, and pay the tax so we can know which 40 and which 60. Don't expect the federal government to concede just like that. You're going to fight every inch of the way. Even the 40% victory by Sabah Law Society, they fought every inch of the way.
Talking about fight and be brave, Datuk. Let's compare a little bit with Sarawak. They know what to demand and they do it very quickly and quietly, and then in the end they will get. But for Sabah, it's almost the other way around. We shout, we demand MA63, but when we are asked to ask, what do you want from MA63? Nothing. I don't know. So this kind of discussion or action is not helping us in a
Yes,
bigger way.
I heard stories that Sabah teams are basically less prepared than Sarawak. Less prepared.
Wow.
In terms of the facts and figures, all this. But the fact that they are negotiating is a good start, but must not negotiate out of fear. You must not fear to negotiate, but not out of fear. Because then you begin to make compromises to save yourself. Right? So I hear stories about that. I have not, because I'm never involved in the last few years Mia negotiation. I heard stories that Petronas is a big operation. They can bully people. So Sabah also found our own experts now to go and talk to Petronas. So one of the ways is for us to engage veterans, retired civil servants who are very well versed, who fear nothing. They don't fear about their career. They don't worry about what's their next job. They already veteran ex-civil servants, corporate people come together, put up a more forceful negotiation team with federal.
So I mean, when it comes to, you said the federal government would not also concede so easily, right? So, and you talked about being brave. Just do it for the sake of doing it. What other things can we ask for from Sabah? I mean, there's the continental shelf, which has an issue now, right, with the federal government. But what other things, like other autonomy things that we can ask for that may not exactly be in MA63? Sarawak is asking for a lot of things and has gotten a lot of things that's not exactly in MA63. What would you ask?
Well, okay, by the way, the 40% net revenue to Sabah is unique to Sabah.
Yeah.
Sarawak cannot claim the same thing. So when Anwar announced 600 million Sabah and 600 million Sarawak, Sarawak was never claiming 40%. It's not in their MA63 for them. It's for Sabah. So Sabah, other than the continental shelf, which the case is coming up on November 7, organized by, the case filed by Sabah, Sabah SABR, versus the federal government and the continental shelf, that's coming up. That's very critical. I'm disappointed that the state government is not giving them full support. Because I've come across some of the documents, bundles and bundles of documents. You need experts. You need maritime experts. You need legal experts to go through all the documents, which the Sabah government is not helping. I would think that the next or the incoming state government will have to give that continental shelf case utmost priority. Okay, get that out of the way. Number 2 is political autonomy in Sabah. That consistent with MA63. You go back to the Tunku Abdul Rahman speeches. You go back to the documents coming up now in the internet from the British and so on, Singapore, that Sabah and Sarawak will promise full autonomy. You see? So give me a few minutes. First, about the perfect storm. 3 things happened that brought Malaysia to today. First, more educated people, unlike the 60s, 70s, 80s. People like you. 2, the internet. You see, you got the social media and discussion among a lot of people, strangers talking to each other with new ideas. 3, the declassification of previously secret documents. You know about the OSA in UK, the 30-year rule and the 60-year rule. After 60 years, all documents except for highly classified defense and financial information, all documents are to be declassified unless otherwise stated. So over the last few years, increasingly, 50 years, 60 years, 30 years, 50 years, 60 years, a lot of documents surface. Telegrams between London and Kuala Lumpur and Manila and Washington and Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, Singapore and Washington surface. And we said, my goodness, it was not like what we are supposed to be now. All kind of promises were made to Sabah and Sarawak. And the British were having reservations. By the way, it was the British expatriate civil servants in North Borneo and Sarawak who put in a lot of the arguments in favor of North Borneo and Sarawak becoming independent before forming Malaysia. Because they thought that Malaysia would be a new colonial power for Sabah and Sarawak. It's the British saying it. And the communist boogie, about what we read in the news about the Vietnamese threat, the communist threat from Vietnam, all this, this is 60s. It was a hot topic at the time. Then the telegram showed that Malaya was after oil and gas. They look at Brunei. Brunei has oil and gas. So does Sarawak and North Borneo. You see? The exchanges of documents, these are come surface. So I call this, combine these 3 factors: more educated population, the internet, podcasts like this, and new documents now being declassified, constitute now the perfect storm for the political elite in Malaya. That's why Jai Ibrahim McKenna, you met you read the Jai Ibrahim message?
Yeah.
Who is going to defend Malaya, he said. No? So they panic. So it's a perfect storm of sorts.
You mentioned about like how a federal government will be so reluctant to give the let go the 40% or whatever taxation wise. But do you think it will be more reluctant on giving away the parliamentary seats to us so that we have 35% in the...
Look, Anwar said in Sarawak after the MA63 meeting, we are going to increase seats for Sabah and Sarawak. Yes. He also meant he's going to increase our seats also for Malaya. He only tell you one part, which is we will increase MP seats for Sabah and Sarawak. He tell you the other part. We will also increase for Malaya, so that it will still be
Not one
less than the 1/3 that was the Malaysia Parliament of 1963. You see, I have seen this kind of nonsense before. There's this Kuching Declaration where at that time the former Pakatan leadership said, we promise Sabah and Sarawak equal status. Oh, big news. Wow, Lim Kuan Yin talk about it. He was one of the signatory, Lim Kee Siang also. I said, Sabah and Sarawak equal status? So what? Is it equal to Malaya? Is it? That's why I call them scam. This is a scam. So when our Prime Minister today very proudly, and then we have our Kuncu here saying very good, we are going to increase seats, MP seats for Sabah and Sarawak. Yes. He didn't tell you, he also will increase it in West Malaysia. Because to increase the seat, you could amend the constitution. That's 2/3. We are not even 1/3, brother. We are not even 1/3. Sabah and Sarawak. So will that parliament approve the amendment of constitution to increase the number of seats so that you lose, so that Sabah and Sarawak have 35%, and West Malaysia will lose the more than 2/3 majority? Will they? They also asking for more seats. They might have justification, right? Realistically, now already they have so much problem with Sabah and Sarawak. They give you 35%. Yeah, check it. No, you check it. Never know. You check it. Never know. You think they're stupid? Right now, they tak tahan. There's an election coming up. They'll appease you. What I call the window opportunity for you to demand. So they will not give you the 35% of the MP seat in Sabah, for Sabah and Sarawak in Parliament. You can fight for it. So you can ask all these party Malaya people, all these, will they agree or not?
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Sorry, I get a bit.
No, it's okay. Now, it's
We love this, Datuk.
because
We
we only read what's on the news. We read what's other people say, so we don't really hear all the behind the scenes or the the tricks and strategies that they all play. I mean, Dato, I think you have a lot of war stories like this.
That's why we appreciate so much.
Yeah, so we would love to hear more war stories.
Yes.
With how even Malaya has this shortchanged Sabah in indirect ways also. But I think we are almost out of time. We have about 5 minutes. But usually, we're going to change completely topic here because as tradition with when we have guests, we ask them 2 personal questions. The first question is, what is your favorite travel destination and what are you reading right now? So maybe you can tell the camera the answer to these 2 questions.
Well, my favorite travel destination is my hometown, Datuk. I go to my favorite coffee shop and I watch, because I have a kampong house, and I watch the birds, coming and going. There are 13 species of birds in my kampong house. Free, none in the cage, all free. That's my favorite travel destination. Right. What I'm reading now, I happen to be asked to give a keynote speech on the coming Tuesday on the topic of Confucian Islamic Civilization Dialogue. So now I'm reading a bit, touching up on my teachings on Confucianism and Islamic civilization as of now.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Very right.
At UMS
UMS.
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. At the time of recording, today is Sunday.
Yeah.
So
3 days.
3 days from now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that just concludes our episode with Datuk Sri Panglima Yong Teck, former Chief Minister of Sabah and President of SAPP. Wow. First time. This is why I've always wanted to have a politician on the podcast. There's so many.
It offers different POV.
There's so many stories that we hear that we aren't really privy to.
Which
So-
you don't get from any books or newspapers.
Yeah.
So I mean, since Datuk Yong is here, any other politicians would like to come on? You can see how we interview guests of this kind of caliber.
Are you
So
brave enough like Datuk Yong?
that's up to you. So I think before I pass it to you, I think I want to wish Datuk all the best in the upcoming elections.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Hafiz?
Alright, I think that's it for this episode. We're running over time here. And of course, stay tuned for the next episode. Goodbye for now.